Welcome to the Ronel Talks Money show. Now, today we are having Lyndwill Clarke from the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, also known as the FSCA, with us, and he's the head of consumer education. So, Lyndwill, thanks a lot for joining us and welcome.
Thanks, Ronel. It's good to be here.
Yes, I think especially during these times when we are seeing so many scams out there, and I also believe with everything happening during lockdown, it is good to just have a talk to somebody like you who are at that level to just inform us a little bit about what the public can look out for and what is important to just make sure that you are making accurate decisions when it comes to finances. So I just want to again invite you, please go to the link at the bottom in the description field to go and enter our competition for our monthly book giveaway. But Lyndwill, let us start first with the FSCA. Maybe you can just give us a little bit more background in terms of what you guys are doing and what is the role of the FSCA.
Thanks, Ronel. Yeah, we're living in quite uncertain times, and sometimes we don't know which is an accurate financial decision or not, but we always talk about an informed financial decision, because if you have all the information at your fingertips, then when you make the financial decision, you at least make it based on facts. So the Financial Sector Conduct Authority is the market conduct regulator of the South African financial sector. We have a mandate which is given to set out in the Financial Sector Regulation Act of 2017, which obviously led to the establishment of the FSCA in April 2018. Of course, we were the Financial Services Board before, and we used to regulate the non-banking industries. So the difference now is that we now are the market conduct regulator of all financial institutions in the country. So our mandate is to ensure that customers are treated fairly. It is to ensure that the financial markets operate with efficiency and integrity. But I think more importantly, from where I'm sitting, obviously, is that we have a mandate and the responsibility to provide financial education programs and to promote financial literacy in the country. So basically what we do is we look at all the financial institutions in the country to ensure that consumers are protected whenever they have purchased or thinking about purchasing a financial product or a financial service. So in essence, in brief, that is what the FSCA does.
Yeah, and that is such an important role, specifically around the education, but we will touch on that a little bit later. I just want to ask you, is your scope limited to South Africa, or how do you deal with certain financial transactions that may be kind of going abroad as well?
Yeah, so all financial institutions that operates within South Africa have to be authorized and licensed by the FSCA. If a financial company operates in South Africa, but it is registered in another country, obviously the FSCA has got bilateral agreements with countries, and you are actually not allowed to operate within South Africa if you're not authorized by the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. If you do that and something happens or there's some kind of illegal activity, the FSCA will then contact the country or the regulatory authority in the country where this company is then registered, and then obviously have some interaction with that regulatory authority in terms of the actions that that particular company is doing within South Africa. So in short, yes, if you want to operate within South Africa with respect to financial products and services, you have to be authorized by the Financial Sector Conduct Authority.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Now, I think in terms of an authorized financial services provider or FSP, we hear about it all the time, but maybe you should just explain to us in layman's terms, what is it really about?
So I think in essence, if you want to sell any financial product or service, you need to comply with what we call the Financial Intermediaries and Advisory Services Act. So you must be what we call phase compliant in order for you to be a financial services provider. You then need to go through a process of being registered and getting a license from the FSCA. And remember, there are different types of products. And therefore, we always encourage consumers or potential consumers to make sure that firstly, the company or the person is authorized by the FSCA and licensed. But secondly, make sure that they are authorized to sell a particular product or a particular service to you. Because sometimes we find when the scams comes, people say, or the company says, but look, I'm authorized by the FSCA, but then they're not authorized to sell a particular product. So there's various categories of products, which I'm not going to go into, which is quite difficult to explain, but there's various categories of products and various companies and FSPs are authorized to sell certain areas of or certain categories of products. Of course, for you to be compliant, there's certain things like honesty, integrity, ethical considerations, and you as an FSP, they need to subscribe and adhere to a professional code of conduct. And of course, that is where your treating customers fairly comes in terms of how you deal with consumers and looking after their needs.
Okay, maybe you should just go into a little bit more detail. Is it kind of limited in terms of when you're providing financial advice, intermediary services, when you are basically taking money in to invest on a client's behalf, or what's the scope there?
There's no limit, if I can put it that way. So what we call it before, during, and after sales service. So it is you have to, as an FSP, you have to have, first of all, create that confidence in consumers to deal with you. Secondly, your products and your services that you are selling must meet the needs of the consumer. Then thirdly, you must provide consumers with clear information around the product, and also keep them constantly informed. So it's the before part where you need to look at their needs, during keeping them informed what's happening all the time. And then, of course, while you're dealing with consumers, you need to make sure of that the needs are provided for, but also take into account all their circumstances. So it's quite difficult sometimes for the advisor, especially during this time, to keep in contact with consumers. And that's why it's important. There's a responsibility side as well, which I'll touch on a bit later. But then fifthly, of course, you need to provide, if you tell consumers about a product, if you sell them the product, you need to be very clear as to the performance of this product. And then, of course, you need to give them the projections that you are actually putting out there. But then the expectations of consumers, financial services providers need to sort of manage that expectations. And then finally, when it comes to payout time, there must be no what we call unreasonable barriers for post-sale interventions. So when it comes to my time to claim, there mustn't be certain barriers. And we've seen this obviously in a few cases now in the media recently, especially when it comes to funerals. And more recently, I think a year or so ago with the momentum issue. So post-sale and afterwards, when I need to claim, there mustn't be barriers. And therefore, all policies or any financial product that is being sold, the FSP needs to provide the customer with all the contact details for recourse mechanisms. And I think that is quite an important part, because most cases, something happens with your financial product, you think, it's too much trouble to go through all of this. But if I always say, if 100 consumers think that way, who are the ones that's going to benefit? not the consumer, but the company, because you just let it go and you don't take the time to actually pursue and to find out what actually went wrong with my policy or my financial product.
Okay. And then what would typically be the type of controls or procedures that should be in place at an FSP so that you as consumer know that you are protected when you deal with an authorized FSP compared to some kind of illegal or irregularity kind of?
So I think it's important that you, first of all, that you establish the fact that you are dealing with an authorized financial services provider. So the FSPs at their place of work, or they need to display their license or their authorization. They need to also be able to produce it. If they come and sell it to you in your home, they'll be able to produce it. But you as the consumer have the right to actually phone the FSCA and find out, listen, I'm dealing with Mr. X, Y, or Mr. Z. Are they authorized with you, or are they authorized to sell the product? So just quickly, while I'm here, the call center number, and I'm sure you can put it up later on your screen. The call center number is 0800 20 3722. Okay, 0800 203722. You can call them, or you can go to our website at www.fsca.co.za and just type in and go to the areas where they are asking to see whether somebody is authorized. And I think that is quite important, because once you know that you're dealing with somebody that is authorized to sell you a specific product, then obviously you know that you have recourse and you are covered and you are protected. That's one of the control measures. Of course, the others are the TCF principles that I've mentioned earlier on in terms of the control measures. But I just want to speak a little bit, Ronel, about the flip side, on the consumer side, because more often than not, we don't take the time, and maybe it is my friend or my brother that says they are an FSP. So you don't want to take his word into contest and say, but listen, are you really? So you accept the fact. And most of the time what happens is your friend or your brother or your sister or your family member say, listen, don't worry about the details. Just sign at the bottom. I'll sort out the rest for you. And I think that is where we run the risk of really getting into trouble. And that is where you as the consumer have the responsibility to go and actually make sure that everything that I need, and this is very important for me also, as a consumer, I always make sure that whatever you're trying to sell me, I actually need it at that very moment, or I'll need it in the future, so that I can obviously make my plans according to my circumstances. And I always say, what covers in my pocket? If my pocket can't afford it, because what inevitably happens, a couple of months down the line, your pocket can't afford it. Then you surrender the policy, which means you've lost some of that money already. And I think that's where the responsibility comes in for the consumer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say to my clients that, remember, trust is not a control. It's still kind of your responsibility to go and check on whoever, if it's your accountant, your financial planner, whoever the person is, it's still your responsibility to take care of your financial well-being and to have the knowledge to ask the correct questions.
That's correct, yes.
Then I also want to ask, if people now or somebody in the public now become aware of something that I believe there's maybe an irregularity or some fraud, or these people are not registered, or they have some kind of complaint about the industry, what's the process that they can follow then?
Okay, so firstly, I think the FSCA is not a complaints handling institution. We do not deal with individual complaints as such, and we encourage consumers to first obviously go to their company and try and sort that out. If they then don't find any joy, then they go to what we call the relevant ombudsman. Now, we have various ombudsmen in the country for short-term, for long-term insurance. We have an ombudsman for phase. If you feel that your financial advisor has not provided you with the proper information or the proper advice, you can go to the phase ombud. But I think mostly consumers need to take that responsibility on themselves to make sure, first of all, that the issue that they are investigating or that not right, that it's a valid issue first. So that's why we say go to the company, make sure that you've resolved the issue there. If you can't, go to the ombudsman. And then what the FSCA does, if it's a challenge or a problem that is industry-wide, we would then address various stakeholders within the industry to see whether we can resolve it and make an industry-wide decision on that. I think with the current business interruption for COVID-19, I think that is quite a point in case where a lot of the businesses looked at the policies and they said, but I qualify for business interruption insurance. They then went to the various companies, and some of the companies then said, no, but look, you don't qualify. It then became a very big issue, and the FSCA then put out a statement around what they perceive to be or what should be the procedure when it comes to business interruption. Subsequently, some of these cases went to court then. So you'll see that is an example of an industry-wide situation where the FSCA will then try to intervene and put clearly what is our position on that. So yeah, it is quite easy. I think most companies are quite willing to talk to consumers if there's an issue. But there is as well, you can again contact the FSCA. Should there be any fraud, we have an ethics line, a fraud ethics line, which maybe you can put up later as well, which you can then contact. It is anonymous. If you feel that there's fraud that has been done, you can then contact the FSCA. We will then take the matter further if it is a legally binding issue.
Okay, now thank you for clarifying that. Now, I think that brings us to the important part of this discussion in terms of what we have seen lately happening, a lot of scams coming through. And I think that is also because during times like this, people are desperate for trying to make an extra buck, and a lot of people fall for these scams. But maybe you should first just explain to us a Ponzi scheme and a pyramid scheme. Just explain that to us in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, these are like I said, people want to make a buck, whether it is the criminal or whether it is the honest person. Everybody's trying to make a buck. So I think it's important that we know that a pyramid scheme is probably the more popular one than the Ponzi scheme. So with a Ponzi scheme, when you enter into this scheme, I don't like to call it an investment because it gives sort of credibility to it. So when you enter into the scheme, you pay an amount of money to what we call the promoter, and then the promoter says, look, I'll double your money within a week or two. But then what happens is the promoter gets other people or other consumers also to provide him or her with money for the scheme. Then in 2 weeks' time, if I have put my money in, I get paid from the new people that put their money in. So it's actually taking Paul's money to pay Peter in this case. So there's no investment, there's no growing of money, there's no product. It's just money being circulated. And at the end, this will fall flat because if the promoter can't get more people to put money into the scheme, nobody's going to get a payout. So the difference between that and the pyramid scheme is where, let's call it the promoter again, asks you as the person putting money into the pyramid scheme to get more people. So that's the big difference. In a pyramid scheme, you are asked to recruit more people to join the scheme. In a Ponzi scheme, you're not really asked to promote or to get more people. So again, with a pyramid scheme, there's somebody at the top. Then there's 1, 2, 3. This person gets 3 more people. Then those 3 people gets 3 more people. And so the pyramid sort of grows. And the one at the top is the one that gets all the money. Which means if you get in at the bottom and you can't get 3 people to pay the amount of money, your pyramid is going to fall flat, which means you're losing your money. And always, there's always somebody that will lose. And it's the one that starts the scheme that normally gets out all the money. And I must say, this is an illegal scheme. In terms of the Consumer Protection Act, the National Consumer Commission actually regulates that area. That is an illegal scheme, not just for the promoter. Remember, if you are part of a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme, you can also be arrested and taken to trial because you were part of this. And some people willingly and knowingly get into this because they think they can get in and get out quickly. You are dealing with an illegal process here. And it's very easy to spot. The moment somebody asks you to recruit people or they promise you high returns. I mean, in South Africa, currently, what's the interest rate on investment products? What's it, between 3 and maybe 6%? But somebody comes to you and said, I will give you 50% on your investment that you give to me. Then they call it an investment because they want to legalize it and legitimize it. Please, people, I think you need to be very, very careful the moment somebody offers you that huge returns, because at some stage you're going to lose your money. I think another thing that for me I found very interesting is that these schemes normally get people to testify. So what they do is they tell, say for instance, I'm the one, then I get Ronel and I say, Ronel, all you have to do is you have to tell these people that you got out thousands and thousands of rands. And then because they trust Ronel, because, Ronel is on financially fit. So if Ronel got out money, then surely I will get out money as well. So just be careful when you hear people testifying that they got money, because they might be in on the scheme as well.
Yeah, and I think that is such an important factor to take into consideration, because if you just think about normal, like valid and legal investments, you will hardly ever hear people saying around the braai, I've just received a payment from my unit trust for this amount of money, or I made so much money from my portfolio. And I think there already you can start seeing kind of there is something fishy. But again, I think like sometimes, like we said, maybe it's a lack of financial literacy. There's also people are in financial difficulty. So those are probably kind of why they are getting into these schemes. But most of these schemes, the red flags are actually there right from the beginning. And if you have this kind of knowledge, then you can actually point it out or identify it. So maybe you've already touched now on a couple, but maybe just elaborate that a little bit in terms of what are the things or the red flags that people should look out for.
Yeah, so I've mentioned the recruitment. I've mentioned the high returns that gets promised. I've mentioned people that testify, but also remember there needs to be paperwork. Somewhere you need to sign something, and there needs to be a product. There needs to be a financial product if you're going to put money into it, okay? And then, of course, there needs to be some authorization. So you need to ask people, are you authorized? What is this product? But are you authorized to sell this product? Show me the license from the FSCA. Because also in terms of once people start taking money from you, it means it's a deposit-taking a transaction, which means you need to be authorized by the South African Reserve Bank as well to take deposits, which means you can ask for that authorization as well. So that's also illegal. So I think it's those kind of flags you need to sort of really look at and say, being asked to recruit, there's no paperwork, there's people testifying, it's 50% interest that I don't think any bank will give me. I haven't signed anything yet. So I don't think there's a product. And then you must ask these questions. Are you authorized by the FSCA? They'll probably say, yes, my FSP number is this, that, and the other. Don't take their word for it. You do your due diligence, you do your homework. And this is one aspect that I always try to tell consumers. It just takes a little bit of time to go and find out. Rather take the time than lose the money. Because at the end of the day, you'd rather be safe, like we say, than sorry at the end. And at the end of the day, if it seems too good to be true, then it probably is. And we believe in that saying because many, many consumers have fallen for the too good to be true. And at the end, it wasn't true at all, and they've lost their money.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes also that there's already kind of sometimes certain warnings or people coming with statements say, be careful of this. And then, people will just kind of not believe it or make it out as they are trying to, bringing this scheme in discredit. It's all those kind of things, as well as like, do they have like a registered office, or where do they operate from? Because you will find that these people that are just here kind of in thin air, and you can never really pinpoint.
That's right. That's it. And the other thing also, consumerism plays a huge part in this, because they will tell you this offer is only valid for today. Now, the moment somebody starts pushing you to say, listen, if you don't take it, look, by tomorrow I can only offer you 20% or 10%, but now I can offer you a 50% increase in your, really, that kind of pushing, it means they really, really want to sell you this thing now, and they're playing on your emotion, and a lot of people, I think you need to be careful obviously on email. It comes through on your WhatsApp line. And people then parading as a financial services provider, saying that, listen, and especially in the digital space, we found with cryptocurrencies, especially now, people taking money, saying that they are a crypto provider, and then they disappear. So people, especially if you go online, needs to be very, very careful and make sure that they're dealing with proper and authorized financial services providers. And by the way, remember, cryptocurrency is not a financial product yet, and it's not even a currency at the moment yet. The FSCA is still going through talks, and we've just recently published a paper on actually looking at how do we make cryptos a financial product. But people, look, it's a gamble, hey? I think you need to be very careful. I've went a bit off topic now, but crypto is something topical in the media at the moment. So I just want to warn the public to be very, very, very careful when they deal with cryptos, because it's very, very risky. And you can get scammed very easily because it's an online platform and it's not regulated.
Yeah, and I think I think it's currently because of that, and they are the kind of the ones who's doing it rightfully and whatever. But I mean, it's just kind of like when there is that risk of potential fraud, of scams, that people should just kind of take more, just be more kind of considerate of what's happening, and more conscious. And then also what I often do is I would go and Google a specific company and just have a look in terms of, are there any things coming out, kind of any funny kind of articles or some court cases or something in the course. And quite often you do pick up red flags there.
Yeah, you just need to be very vigilant. I think I always tell people, it's almost like it's your money. So why would you want to give your money to somebody if you haven't done your homework? You might as well go to the casino and just gamble your money away, because the chances are you are going to lose your money if you haven't done your homework. Okay, and if and make sure that there's a recourse mechanism that has been provided to you. Because in 99.9% of the cases, if they can't provide you with a recourse mechanism or some kind of authority that is regulating the industry or the product that they are providing to you, 99.999%, it's a scam. And I think consumers really, really need to be vigilant and take good care of who they're giving their money to, and contact the FSCA. If we don't know, we will find out for you, and we will provide you with the correct information. But don't just put your money, without thinking or without doing the kind of research. Don't put it into a scheme that you're not absolutely 100% sure that it suits your needs, it is your circumstances, it is authorized, there is a recourse mechanism in place. And yeah, with a pyramid scheme or the Ponzi scheme, the chances that you get your money back is 0 to 0%. So yeah, you need to do your homework.
Yeah, and I think there again, it comes back to whether you are dealing with an authorized FSP or not, because there again, there's controls in place, like usually having separate client accounts that's separate from the company's accounts, your trust accounts, all those kind of things. There's usually insurance that they need to take out on when they deal with clients' money, and all those kind of things are there to protect the public if something goes wrong. But if that isn't in place, like with these organizations or these schemes, there again, you don't have that kind of sense of comfort that if something goes wrong, you will be able to get your money back.
Yeah, no, look, definitely. I think, like I said, recourse mechanisms, and any financial services provider that sells you a product or a service have to provide you with the compliance officer, the recourse mechanism, or the details of the FSCA, the details of the ombudsman, and it must be all part of the documents. And that is why it's important that you read the documents. Now, I'm one of those people. I don't like to read a lot of legalese, okay? But when it comes to my money, I take a different view. I look at every little terms and condition that is stated in the document that I'm provided, so that I know, and you can't say afterwards, but I didn't know, because by then you've signed the document already. So you need to be so vigilant. And if you don't really understand, it is the financial advisor or the FSP needs to explain it to you in real language so that you understand it. And if you don't understand the language, if English is not your first language, the financial services provider must provide a language person in the vernacular that you speak in order for you to understand. And for me, that is probably one of the most important aspects when you deal with FSP. Before you sign or before you leave his or her office, that you absolutely understand what you are signing for. And this is where the responsibility part I spoke about earlier on, that you know, what is my premium? What am I going to pay every month? What is the projections I've been provided? I'm walking into this with my eyes wide open. I know what is going to come out of it. And especially when it comes to insurance, and especially the short-term insurance, the non-life products, especially when you take insurance on your car, that you need to know what the terms and conditions are. Currently, there's a couple of cases that what happens if I have an accident after the 9 o'clock curfew for COVID? So your policy will state if you I'm just using an example, if you've been involved in an illegal act and you get into a situation like an accident, then we won't pay out. So now there's a whole issue around, and it's a debate going on at the moment. If after 9 o'clock I have an accident with my car, will I still get my payout? And you need to contact your financial services provider to clarify all those kinds of issues. Obviously, if I'm on my way to the hospital with my sick child or spouse, it might be there might be circumstances that relates to why I'm traveling after hours. So what I'm trying to say is you need to, at this stage, talk to your financial services provider if you have any financial product to look at what are the implications now that there's a COVID-19 pandemic. If I have a life cover, am I covered for pandemics within my insurance policy? And again, for me, this is important that your responsibility as a person when you have a financial product is actually very important, because if you if you keep to what you, if you're diligent and you keep your responsibilities going, the service provider have got no, layman's language, leg to stand on. They have to pay you out because you've informed them constantly within the lifetime of the policy of your circumstances. I think the classic example obviously was, again, the momentum issue where the person was shot, but he didn't declare that he had diabetes. And then there was a legal and there was an ethical issue. So eventually they decided to pay, and it became an issue within the industry-wide. It was an industry-wide issue. So again, I think it's again the responsibility of the consumer. If I have a product, if something changes in my life, okay, I need to tell my FSP so that when it comes to the time that there's a claim, I might not be there, but my family might be in trouble because there's something I didn't disclose to my FSP. So it goes both ways, né? So the FSP also has to disclose. So I have to disclose to my financial services provider, but my FSP also has to disclose what kind of commissions I'm getting, and all those kind of issues around my financial product. Because for me, it's an open and honest and transparent relationship. And if you have that, and I always tell, if I speak to the FSPs especially, if you have that relationship with your client, you will have a client for life. But you will not only have that client will tell his family that if you deal with, Mr. X, I know he's an honest person, he's got integrity, he's been dealing with my portfolio for a number of years, and he's always been open and honest with me about what is happening. And I think for me, that's an important part. Open and honesty within any financial transaction is always the best policy.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with that. And I think it definitely does go both ways. And that is why it is important that you disclose things from your side as the consumer, but that you also ask the questions, and that you do not only rely on, a phone call or something, that you also try to get that in writing. If you, inform them, also follow it up with an email, make sure that you get a response from them. And the same if you ask questions, get that response in email as well, so that you have proof when anything happens later on.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion and a good policy to have from yourself. Although most companies, when they start off the telephonic conversation, they tell you that this is being recorded. So they're supposed to keep these recordings for a period of time, so that when there is a query on it, they can always pull the recording and then provide you with what you actually said or what they told you as well.
Yeah, but I think just from your point of view, from the consumer,
yes,
because you cannot
definitely
always remember exactly what did they say, and then you get to just fall back onto your email as well. But I think I want to ask you, so we've basically said that how to check for an authorized financial services provider. They will have the number on their website, on all the documentation, and then the public can basically take that number and they can go onto your website and have a look whether they are in fact an authorized financial services provider, or they can obviously phone your customer helpline to check and confirm that.
And of course, they can check whether they are authorized to sell a specific product as well as a specific service. And I think for me, that's actually the important part, because you can check and say, oh, but you are authorized, but then you're authorized only to sell insurance. You're not authorized to give advice on investment products, for instance. I'm just using a simple example. So that's why the public need to find out. And I think especially in scams, because we've had one or two cases where authorized financial services providers have actually run scams on the side, but they produce an FSC license. There's also scams going around where people produce a fake financial services license, an FSCA license. Then they say, but because what they do is they lift our logo from the website, they lift the photos of our divisional executives from the website. They lift even the signature at some stage. Then they produce this thing to you and they say, but look here, there's the picture of Mr. or Mrs. X. She or he is the divisional executive at the FSCA. There's their signature. It's still up to you. Don't believe that. It's still up to you to phone the FSCA or to go onto our website to say, listen, I'm dealing with this company. They've got the picture of Mr. Clarke here and his signature. But they're selling this product. Are they authorized to sell this product? Or are they actually an FSP? And I think we've actually seen this many a times that consumers send us the actual letter to say, but listen, I paid these guys 25,000 Rand. And now this is what they showed me, but I can't find them now anymore. They don't answer my phone calls. And then we know already, but you've been scammed, sir. Then they blame the FSCA. But it's because they didn't do their own research. And you can't come back to the FSCA and say, but it's your fault that I've been scammed if you as a consumer didn't do your research properly.
Yeah, absolutely. Lyndwill, I think we've touched now on so many different things, but it all comes back again to, knowledge and financial education and research and making sure that you are taking the best care of yourself and not only trust other people, but really go and do your research, educate yourself about finances. But maybe just the last question, you can maybe just again give us your view in terms of the importance of financial education, but also where can people really, or what can they do to educate themselves about finances?
Yeah, I think we've the discussion we've had now, Ronel, actually just shows that you really need to be informed. Sometimes if you use the word education and literacy, people get a bit scared now. They think they need to go and take a test. But I think you just need to be informed. You need to know what kind of questions I need to ask when dealing with an FSP, or to differentiate between a legitimate opportunity, an investment, or whether it is a scam. Okay. And I can't emphasize it more during this time, especially during the time of our pandemic that we're sitting in, that people with financial products, I think now is a very good time to go and read your product, your policy, or your product documents again, to make sure that you know what you are covered for. So when you have a financial product, I think speak to your financial advisor now. And if you don't have a financial advisor, look, some of them, they do charge a little bit of a fee, but you can also contact the Financial Planning Institute. I don't have the details quite with me, but you can check on the website. Sometimes they do provide pro bono advice at no cost as well. So make sure that your policy is still in order. Make sure that you know what you're covered for. The second thing I think during this time that people need to be very careful of is, because we have that people are, they might lose their jobs, they might get their pay cut a little bit. So just make sure that you are well aware of what happens with your pension fund as well. So if you belong to a retirement fund, okay, because a lot of people now think, because I lose my job and because I resign, or because I'm getting half pay, I can now resign to access my retirement fund. And I think that is a very short-sighted thing to do. Again, speak to your financial advisor, speak to your pension fund administrator. It is very important that you speak to these contact persons. Go to your human resources department and find out, what are my options in this case. So that is why I'm saying it is important that you know and you have the information close at hand. The FSCA, we have our financial education or our consumer website at www.fscamymoney.co.za. Please go and visit it. There's a lot of information out there. If you are not sure, you can contact us. We've got a website, email address. I think it's cad at fsca.consumer.co.za. So it is our consumer education department. There is a contact number there as well. or you can just contact the number I gave you earlier on. I think it was 0800 20 3277. So please contact our call center if you need more information. Then, of course, from the 22nd to the 22nd to the 28th of March, there is a Money Smart Week that is being run through the National Treasury. And I urge everybody that is that tunes into your channel. We will have a schedule that will be published on the Money Smart Week. It's called mswsa.co.za. There's a schedule that will be published. There will be activities online that you can tune in. We are trying to get the site 0 rated at the moment, and all of that information will also be available. So please, if you want any information around financial product, financial services, how to protect yourself, in that week, we will have lots of activities online. There will be some issues on the radio interviews on the radio that we will be discussing, community radio, so you can tune in, listen out for those adverts as to when it will happen. So yeah, there's a lot of activities that you can attend and you can tune into to get more information. But please, I'm asking consumers to be very, very careful during this time who you give your money to. Do your research, do the due diligence from your side, so that when something goes wrong, that you know where to go to. And just once again, www.fscamymoney.co.za. If you need more information, our contact details are on the website. Contact us. We're more than welcome to provide you with any information or direct you. If we don't know, we will find somebody that will know and provide you with the relevant information. So yeah, very important during this time that you have the information at your fingertips, or that you know where to find it. And I think that's why I gave you the information of our website. Again, www.fscamymoney.co.za.
Okay. Thank you, Lyndwill. Yes, I'm also part of the Money Smart Week, and I believe that is a great initiative just to make the public more aware of what's happening, and to just kind of a free educational campaign. But Lyndwill, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for just sharing some tips and things that the consumers can use to make sure they are making informed decisions, and that they are just more aware of what's going on, and again, the importance of educating yourself about finances and what's going on in the world out there. We are living in extremely tough conditions currently, and it is important that you take care of yourself and your financial well-being. So thank you to Lyndwill and the FSCA for educating us today. I hope you have enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe to the channel, leave some comments. If you have any questions, you are more than welcome to leave it in the comments field, and I will also share all the information where you can get help and get some free education on the FSCA's website. So then it's to the next Ronel Talks Money Show.